All right, we are live on a Wednesday afternoon. Sorry I'm a couple minutes late. My technology went a little bit wacky on me. I even told it to start a little bit early. It took 3 minutes and then died on me, and then finally worked the second time that I did it. Anyway, we got several different pieces of news yesterday about writers for upcoming Marvel projects. Both of them very exciting in a sense. Both of them ones that I wanted to talk about. Both of them have things that make me go, hey, what's going on here? So they were nice ones to talk about on here. Anyway, rambling to myself. First up, yesterday it was announced that they have landed a writer for the upcoming X-Men movie. He's in talks. It looks very likely that this guy is going to be hired. It's Michael Lesslie. He wrote the Hunger Games prequel from last year, and they've been talking about doing an X-Men movie for years now. Disney acquired Fox and the rights to the X-Men characters in 2019. They alluded to mutants coming soon. They've been dropping little mutant pieces over the last several years. They just did a season of X-Men 97, a continuation of X-Men the Animated Series, but we haven't really had any formal hires for this X-Men movie that we know is going to happen at some point in time. Until now, it looks like we are getting a writer for the film. So what do I make of this? First thing to say, there's something nice about the fact that it's happening. We are actually going to get this X-Men movie after 5 years of Disney having these characters. Something definitive is happening. Now, the turnaround from hiring a writer to movie in theaters, that means this movie's coming out a while from now. Remember, they announced Mahershala Ali as Blade 5 years ago, and we don't have that movie yet. It's not coming out for at least another year. So the turnaround from this guy getting hired to movie is a while, but at least something has happened. That's number one. I am excited to see a refreshed new version of the X-Men, so I'm excited that it's happening. That's the positive. What do I think about them hiring Michael Lesslie specifically? I can't say that this really excites me at all. Simple fact is that if you look at his filmography, he did Hunger Games prequel last year, and then like 6-7 years before that, he did Assassin's Creed, and then just some smaller indie things. Some of the smaller indie ones do have some acclaim, some praise to them, but when your two big mainstream things are Assassin's Creed, which was not good, and the Hunger Games prequel, I just can't say that that's like, oh man, that's awesome. So cool that he's getting hired. I was a fan of the Hunger Games prequel, but that's adapting a book. There's source material, and converting it into a different format is a specific skill set. And I think he did a good job with that. Even some of the issues that I had with the movie come from the book. So he did a good job of adapting what was there. But when I'm looking at adapting something where he has to do a little bit more actually developing story, which is what he had to do with Assassin's Creed, where taking a video game and adapting it is more akin to adapting X-Men from the comics into a movie versus adapting a specific book into a movie. And that movie wasn't great. And he just doesn't have a lot of credits. And the fact that he doesn't have a lot of credits over the last several years in and of itself is like, what's kind of going on here? He does have some future credits, like he was hired to do Now You See Me 3, but I can't say that excites me. So the general idea that we are getting a new X-Men movie, big thumbs up. I'm excited for that. That's a positive. The specific person they hired doesn't really excite me. But then again, I've said it many times before that in the world of Marvel Studios, I don't even know how much the specific writer matters. Maybe they're fixing that, but over the last several years, it's just so producer-driven, it's so top-down that they're hired guns. Whether you get an Oscar-winning writer, Oscar-winning director, or the guy that did Assassin's Creed, they're a McDonald's manager. They're doing what corporate is telling them to do. Kevin Feige gives them instructions, so whether it's good or bad, how good the burger is at McDonald's isn't a statement about how good of a chef is working in the kitchen. It's a McDonald's burger. It's what it's supposed to be, and it's very limited in what it can be. That's kind of what the MCU has turned into. Not to say that there haven't been great MCU films. The analogy breaks down at a certain point in time. But the writers, they're just doing what they're told to do. So it's tough to be fully excited for that. So we had a second big piece of news that also came yesterday. And that is they hired a showrunner for the Vision series. So at the end of WandaVision, White Vision is introduced. He battles fake Vision. And then at the end of it, White Vision has his existential crisis and flies off. As of right now, that was 3 years ago. And there's been zero updates on White Vision. But there's been rumors that they're doing a Vision series for several years now. We're going to call it Vision Quest or whatever. It seems like that's not the name anymore. And yesterday, we get another report, not rumor mill, report from a major outlet that we have a showrunner for the Vision series. And the specific person they hired, it's Terry Matalas, who was the showrunner of Picard Season 3. Now, Seasons 1 and 2 of Picard had a different showrunner combination. Terry was in there for Season 2, but he wasn't the showrunner. And Season 1 and 2 of Picard, really bad. Season 3 of Picard, Terry was the showrunner, the one guy, and it's really good. So, as of right now, this is not the project I wanted Terry to do. I wanted Terry to do more and more Star Trek. Like, let him do his thing. Seems like he gets it. But if that's not happening, if Paramount's not greenlighting that, he seems like he has a pretty good get it factor. So him being the person to do Vision, cool. That's a win for Marvel Studios. I'm for that. The flip side to it, they've been talking about how they want to reduce their output, put out fewer shows, and do ones that really matter, that really make a splash. And as like a week after Kevin Feige and Bob Iger like, yeah, we're reducing quantity. We're just going to do 3 movies, 2 shows. And then they go, by the way, we're doing a Vision TV show. The next week you go, a Vision TV show? Really? Like, it feels like you can just leave that thread dangling or just bring back White Vision whenever you do Avengers. Do we really need a Vision series? And you think by the time it comes out 2 years from now, that'll be 5 years after WandaVision. This is the problem with Marvel right now. There's just so many characters, so many plot lines that we're like, yeah, let's do a follow-up to WandaVision. 5 years later. Like, you can go through all of high school in 4 years. Like, you move on and you're in middle school when WandaVision aired and you're in college by the time you get the follow-up to it about Vision, not just the Agatha spin-off. The Agatha spin-off itself is nearly 4 years after WandaVision. So they're just taking so long. And a Vision series? Really? Like, that's... We kind of did that with WandaVision. We closed that out. We finished it. And of characters that feel like if you're reducing quantity and you just look at some of the ones that are currently happening, Agatha all along. Okay. Ironheart, Vision series, you got that. These don't scream like top tier quality over quantity. These still feel like we're putting out projects just to put out projects. The person they hired, Terry, I believe in him, so I've got more trust in him. It'll be good. The article itself talks about how they're fixing their structure so they have a true showrunner, whereas before they had head writers, but it was still producer, and they're trying to move to a more traditional model of television where they realized doing it their Marvel way did not work. And so they're trying to fix that. So this is one of the projects that is from the beginning in this new structure with a proper showrunner. Okay. He showran a season that I thought was great. He's coming off of that. Maybe this is perfect. But I can't get super excited when it's like, Vision, really? Like that's the project. So, all right, we'll see what comes of it. This isn't a Q&A, but I can grab a couple questions in here and potentially see how things go. All right. Michael says Sean looks like it started an entirely new stream. All right, looks like I lost some questions in there. That's frustrating. That is very frustrating. My tech went bonkers on me, so I shared a link to apparently the wrong deal. Who knows what's going on over here? But if you have any on topic questions about this, we can grab them real quick. Read Comics offering some context. Assassin's Creed didn't use his script. He's embarrassed by the outcome of that movie. That's promising. Now, this is one of the ones that some of the times it gets tricky because you can see they're credited as the writer for a movie, and what happened can so often happen. They greenlight his script, and then they bring in script doctors who tweak things, and then they do massive reshoots and they rework it. And by the time you go from his was the one that was greenlit to what we see on screen, it's something totally different. They say that movies are written 3 times. They're rewritten when they're shot, and then they're rewritten in the editing room. But we also live in an era where you also have rewrites, reshoots, and so there's this whole 4th one in there. So, love to be wrong, but when you see, like, he did this one thing, not much happens for 6-7 years, and then he just adapts straight from a book. It could mean a lot of different things. There's a lot of different reasons, but I can't get super excited about him for the project. Okay, I'm not seeing it. Some of the questions that were in the other feed apparently got lost on here, but Iron Bro asked a question on the other feed that was worth asking. Hey, are you going to rank both the Fox and MCU films together once Deadpool and Wolverine comes out? No, I don't plan on doing that. I'll have an updated X-Men ranking. There will be no MCU ranking in the year 2024. Whenever a new Avengers movie comes out, maybe I'll do a full full Marvel ranking of all the films. He also asked, do you agree with others that X-Men 97 is much better than the Fox X-Men universe? I wouldn't say that. I mean, I think it's an unfair comparison. X-Men 97 gets away with certain things in its storytelling you couldn't get away with in a movie. Like the way that it just like drops you into the middle of a story and it doesn't explain what's going on and you're just supposed to piece it together, and like it'll tell a very dense story in 30 minutes and then move on to something different. You can't do that with a movie. And because of that, it's able to do a bunch of things the movies weren't able to do. It's truer to the comics in a lot of ways. The characterizations, in particular, of Rogue, Cyclops, much better. But I don't think you can do a one-to-one comparison of what X-Men the Animated Series, X-Men 97 are doing to just say, well, because this worked in this TV show, why don't they just do this as the movies? It really doesn't work that way. Like, if you stop and think about it, there's no movie that tells a story the way that X-Men 97 tells its stories. Look to see if there's any other X-Men Marvel related questions in here. Do you think Bucky should be Captain America, especially considering by building it up throughout the trilogy? No, I don't have any issue with Sam becoming I don't think like Bucky becoming Captain America was resolve issues with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I don't have any problem with Sam. Sam, Bucky's trauma, brainwashing, the history there makes him a lot more difficult to be the symbol that is Captain America. When you are a villain, the face of evil, you can't be the face of Captain America. There's things to it that make it a lot more complicated. And so I don't have any issues with that. Would you hire someone experienced with I'm not sure what the MS means, but as an X-Men director or someone new, I would have to look at it. Stop to think who I would think would be good for it. I don't have like someone in mind. Um, I'm not at the moment. Because I don't trust the Marvel system. It's tough to have a proper answer to say whether I would want a inexperienced person. Russos were inexperienced with big blockbusters, and that turned out great. But then but there was like a shepherding system there for how they did it, and there's just too much output. There's not enough shepherding, and so it's not working the same way. That's why you have more misfires, and then even you'll bring in a heavyweight like Sam Raimi, and it doesn't work because the system's broken. The writing process, like Sam Raimi, doesn't even have enough power. So there's a lot of just gigantic issues with things going on that makes me skeptical. But I have plans to do an X-Men fan cast. I'll think through who the director would be. So some people are asking about that. I don't have someone immediately in mind, but I'm thinking about it. I don't have an ideal X-Men lineup off the top of my head. I do have plan to do a fan cast, so I'll probably to some extent answer that question there. Hey, Galaxy Geeks is in the live stream. Hey, man. Nice to see you in there. Does the Vision show feel like a show made before this full restructure Disney is... Does the Vision show feel like a show made before this full restructure Disney is doing? I mean, it has threads going back because there's been murmurs of it for a while, but it's not written. So I think I would view this one as the first of the new era, is what I'm expecting it to be. The first one that actually its writer's room shooting is after the restructure. Whereas you look at Agatha, Daredevil, Ironheart, all of those were shot, worked on, written before the restructure. This is not written yet, so it's post restructure. So it's the first one green lit after everything. All right. Galaxy Geeks. Also, do you think Captain America 4 will be able to address anything political without alienating half of their audience in today's world? No. No, I don't think so. I think it's twofold. Things are too polarized, so people aren't interested in, like, they don't want their Marvel movies doing that. Like that, and people have picked their sides. But it's also the writing directing team that did Falcon and the Winter Soldier, so I don't trust them to be able to do it right. I think they did it wrong. They did it heavy-handed. They did it in a way that came off like, what are we doing here? Like, why are you like, what is this? And a Falcon and the Winter Soldier, a buddy cop show, and it's so on the nose that and lazy. So I don't think that the audience would accept almost anything. I think no matter what, people would get their toes stepped on if they do that. But also, I don't think they would do a good job at it. Especially when you kind of have these systems that don't have enough outside voices helping them to balance it, then it gets wacky, and that's what I would expect from it. Alrighty. I'll close out on this one. What are your thoughts on Daredevil Born Again being rewritten to be canon to the Netflix series? I think the announcement that like that announcement that like it came out this last week that they basically said, Charlie basically said, yeah, the original version wasn't canon to the old show, and with the revisions, with the rewrites, reshoots, and everything, it is now officially canon to the Netflix show. I think whatever the original version of this show was such an insane miscalculation. Like, absolutely baffling that they planned to do Daredevil with Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, but it wasn't canon to the Netflix show. That is so misreading the room. I think it's kind of insulting to the audience. It sounds like you're taking advantage of the Marvel Netflix goodwill without actually honoring it, because you're not continuing it. That would have so horrendously backfired for them. People would have been infuriated by it unless it was just phenomenal, which obviously it wasn't. And it's like, that sounds like it was everything some of us feared it was going to be. Like, we heard these murmurs, and it's like, wait, is it not season 4? Like, why is Foggy Karen not coming back? What's going on here? And there were so many signs that things were bad about it. And this just confirms all. They hired like the writers of some TV show called like Covert Ops that nobody's ever watched, instead of anyone that people respected. And so it sounded terrible. It sounded insulting. And hiring Charlie to do that, it's like the most cynical fan cast. Like, it turns Charlie Cox into a fan cast of himself. Because fan casting is when you don't really know who the right, like us as fans, we don't know what the script is. So we don't know who's right. And so we're casting based off not knowing the script on who would look right, who would play the version that we would think we would want. So they do this thing that's not Marvel Netflix, but we're going to cast Charlie Cox anyway. So it's this bizarre fan cast. They're not casting the Daredevil for their show. They're casting the one that's the fan cast of this other thing. Like, it's weird. It's such a bizarre thing to do. And so they realized, luckily, I mean, hopefully not too late. We'll find out. But how insane is it that they shot 8 episodes, fired all the writers, fired the directors, and then reshot it? It was going to be like 17, 18 episodes. Now it's going to be 9 episodes. What on earth this thing was? It was a monstrosity. You should be offended. I'm offended. Hopefully they fixed it. But the people that greenlit that terrible decision still have their jobs. Kevin Feige greenlit that decision. Something is was very broken at Marvel, that they were making terrible decisions. We had a little super chat in here, and then we'll close this one out. Oops, sorry, whoops. Okay, I'm trying to, like, this. The super chat doesn't look like there's a question on it. Yeah, Galaxy Geek saying 22 episodes. Like, yeah, they had all they said one number and it kept getting bigger, and then now they've said it's like 9 episodes. Like, what on earth? Like, it is so bizarre whatever went on there. Do you see Marvel bringing the Defenders back or any other members? Glad that we got Daredevil, though. There seems to be a lot of reason to believe that Jessica Jones is going to show up. Iron Fist was not well received. I would not expect that to work. Like, I wouldn't expect him to show up because nobody wants it. Luke Cage was popular, so it wouldn't surprise me too much. But, like, I imagine they want to pull back the popular pieces. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was some Luke Cage. I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't Luke Cage, because he's not as directly connected. I don't know. It sounded like Jessica Jones was coming, but I think that they're going to try and... They know we want Marvel Netflix. So as much as they can do that, they're going to want to do that. There's more, like, we know Punisher, obviously, and there's several good reasons to think that Jessica Jones will be making some appearances. So we'll see. We'll see what comes of it. We'll see people. We'll see people. How many? I don't know, but we will see people. We got people spamming questions. That is a good way to get put in timeout, especially if you're spamming a question not related at all to the topic at hand. Please do not do that. Hey, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I think I want to try and do more of these quick little live streams over here on the second channel, talking about some movie news that has dropped. So these might be more frequent in the coming months. We'll see how this goes. Thank you for tuning in. Keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.